Happy Thursday, everybody. This is your Thursday, May 14th ELA guided video lesson. Our last Thursday together. Ooh, so sad. But we're going to jump back into our ELA skill for the week, which was, remember, finding the lesson or the moral of the story. That's kind of meant the same thing. So before we jump into our passage today and do a couple of questions that ask us about the lesson, and we're also going to hit on a couple of skills that we've talked about in the previous weeks. I want to review really quickly with you what the lesson of the story is, first of all. So remember, the lesson or the moral is just what the author wants us to learn. Like, what lesson, what is something that we can take away from the story that I learned? What was the author trying to teach me? Remember, on Tuesday we read Alexander Who Used to Be Rich last Sunday, and we can learn from that story that it's hard to save money, or you have to be really disciplined to save your money if you want to save up to buy things. Or we could learn it's not smart to buy silly things with your money when you're trying to save up for something more important. Lots of different, and like I've said all week, there can definitely be more than one lesson or more than one moral for a story. You might learn something different than I did, but the lesson, again, remember, is what the author wants us to learn from reading the story. All right, so we're going to read this passage today called View from the Top. And then we've got 6 questions that we're going to answer together before I show you your independent activity for today. Okay? All right, View from the Top. And like I say most weeks, I'm going to read it one time through out loud to you, and I highly suggest after I do that you pause it and either read it silently in your head one time or even read it out loud. That's great fluency practice, so you'll be an expert on it by the time we answer the questions. Okay? My uncle called and invited me on a special trip. He wanted me to visit the building where he worked. He told me he had a surprise to show me. So let's pause for a second and let's kind of make some predictions about this passage, okay? The title we see is called The View from the Top. And we're mentioning how this character has been called to go visit a building. So I can kind of predict or infer based on what I know about buildings and tall buildings. I can infer that we're probably going to have to, this passage is going to have something to do with maybe going to the top and looking at the top of the building. I don't know. And then that gets me thinking, like, are you afraid of heights? Am I afraid of heights? Have I ever been to a top of a building before? And how did that make me feel? Okay. We drove to the building where he worked. First, we went to visit his office that was on the 3rd floor. He showed me his window, and I looked out and could see the streets below. Cars were moving on the street, and the people were walking on the sidewalks. Everything looked smaller. Why do you think everything looks smaller? They're only on the 3rd floor. That's not too high up, I don't think. But if everything looks smaller, do you think it's because they were up a little higher and looking down, things look smaller maybe? Now for the surprise, Claire, my uncle said as he led me to the elevator. When we got in, he told me to push the number 20 button. That was the number for the top floor. I wonder how Claire feels now. The door opened and we were on the top floor. My uncle started walking over to the window and I felt a strange feeling in my stomach. Come look at the view, Claire. I shook my head from side to side. I was scared to look out the window. It's okay, Claire. You're safe, said my uncle. The view is stunning. Come and take a look. You can do it, Claire. I took a deep breath and slowly walked over to my uncle's side. I looked out the window and he was right. We could see for miles. I noticed that that's italicized, so let's keep that in mind. We could see the roads coming into town. We could see parks and playgrounds. We could even see farms and mountains outside of town. Everything was so far away that it looked tiny. Going back to where it said everything looked small, it looked tiny. I thought the view from the top floor was beautiful. I will never forget the visit to my uncle's office. So again, I suggest maybe pausing this video, reading this short story one more time, either out loud or silently in your head, and then we'll get into the 6 questions, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and dive right into these questions. So the first question here is asking, what is the lesson in this passage? And that's what we've been talking about all week, the lesson or the moral. What did the author want us to learn from this story? I am going to stop my video for just a second so I can go into draw mode on here without freezing my face. Okay, So what is the lesson in this passage? I'm actually going to highlight the word lesson because that's my key word here that I'm focusing on. Lesson, moral. What did the author want me to learn from this story? Now, just thinking back over the story, it's about a girl named Claire who went to the building where her uncle worked, and her uncle had a surprise for her, which was taking her to the top floor of the building to look out from it. It sounds like she felt a little nervous because it said she had a strange feeling in her stomach. She was scared to look out the window, but then he convinced her to try it. And after she did, she was so glad because she said that everything looked so beautiful and she'll never forget that visit. So she kind of faced her fear and was able to look out from the top of the building and ended up enjoying it. So let's look at our choices here. We've got A, working too hard leads to missing out on fun moments. Well, I don't know that the author wanted us to learn this because I don't think Claire missed out on a fun moment. She faced her fear, she was brave, and because she faced that fear, she was able to look off the side of the building and she didn't miss out on the fun moment. And I don't think anything about working too hard fits here either. So with A, we're going to slash it and trash it. All right, let's look at B. B says being brave can lead to enjoying something new. I would definitely describe Claire as brave. She was very brave by facing her fear and slowly walking over to look out the window. And this was something new. She had never been to the top floor of this building before. And she was able to see parks, playgrounds, farms, everything so cool. And she really thought everything was beautiful and enjoyed it. So I think that she was brave. I think it was something new for her. And I do think she enjoyed it. So I'm going to put a question mark next to B as a maybe. All right, what about C? C says it's important to help family members when they are sick. Well, absolutely. I think that's a very important thing. But was anyone sick in this passage? Did we have to help any family members? No, that doesn't really fit this story at all. So let's slash and trash C. And check out D. D says saying no can hurt other people's feelings. Well, Claire did say no at first in paragraph 6 when she said she shook her head from side to side because she was too scared to look out the window. But I don't think that hurt her uncle's feelings. In paragraph 7, he said, "It's okay, Claire, you're safe. Come take a look. You can do it." He didn't get his feelings hurt, and I don't think that that's what the author wanted us to learn from this story. I think the author wanted us to learn that by being brave, that we can lead to enjoying something new, like riding a new roller coaster, going on a new trip or something like that. So I think B is the best choice to fit the lesson, what the author wanted us to learn in this passage. All right, let's go down to this next one, which was what we talked about a couple of weeks ago when we talked about story structure and the beginning, middle, and end, and the purpose for those in a story. So this question is asking, how does the first paragraph help the reader understand the passage? Okay, how does the first paragraph help the reader understand the passage? I love when they give us questions like this that tell us exactly where to go back and look in the passage. So I'm going to go to paragraph 1 because that's where it told me to go. And I'm going to reread it before I look at my 4 answer choices. So it says, my uncle called and invited me on a special trip. He wanted me to visit the building where he worked. He told me he had a surprise to show me. All right. So does that first paragraph introduce the main characters and the setting? I think it introduces some of the main characters. It's got my uncle, me, the setting. He wanted me to visit the building. He had a surprise. So yeah, I think it does introduce the character and the setting, but you know we got to read all our 4 choices before we pick the right one, okay? B says it introduces the main problem in the story. Well, what was the main problem in this story? I think the main problem was that Claire was a little too afraid to go to the top and look out the window. Because in paragraph 4, it says she felt a strange feeling in her stomach. In paragraph 6, she shook her head from side to side and was scared to look out the window. I think that tells us our main problem, but that's not the first paragraph like our question asked us. So we're going to slash and trash B. We do not introduce the main problem in paragraph 1. All right, C says it describes how Claire solves her problem. Well, we solve our problem, let's see, in paragraph number 8, I think she solves her problem by taking a deep breath and slowly walking over to her uncle's side to look out the window. She kind of just faced her fear, took a deep breath, gathered all that courage, and was able to solve her problem of being too afraid. But again, that's not the first paragraph like this question asks us. It's asking us how the first paragraph helps the reader understand the passage. Okay, last one, D says it describes how Claire feels in her uncle's office building. It describes how she feels in her uncle's office building. Okay, well, let's see how it tells us how she felt in the office building. In paragraph 1, we're not even in the building yet, are we? We're just introduced to that he wants her to come. Let's see. The only paragraph I really see that tells me anything about how she feels is paragraph 4, where she felt a strange feeling in her stomach. So I don't think paragraph 1 describes how she feels in her uncle's office building. We're not even there yet in paragraph 1. In paragraph 1, we're just introduced to who's in the story and where the story is going to take place. So I think that paragraph 1 is used for A, to introduce the main characters and the setting. B, C, and D don't fit. All right, let's go on to the next 2 questions. Same story. What does the phrase "we could see for miles" mean in paragraph 8? So this was a skill that we struggled on just as a whole second grade. This figurative language is really hard for second graders because we're a little more literal thinkers, which that just means that it's hard for us to read into figurative language that actually doesn't mean what it exactly says. So this is a tough skill for all second graders. So we're really going to work on this for a second. And look, it's one of my favorite questions because it tells me which paragraph to go back to. So the phrase "we could see for miles" in paragraph 8. So here's paragraph 8 where I'm focusing. And let me find, oh, that was that italicized sentence. Remember that we needed to focus, that we might need to remember earlier. It said "we could see for miles." I'm going to read a little bit of the text before and after "we could see for miles" to see if I can get some context clues to help me figure out what that means. Okay, so this is where Claire has gathered her courage. She's looked over at her uncle's side, and then she's looked out the window. So as she looks out the window, she says, "we could see for miles. We could see the roads coming into town. We could see parks and playgrounds. We could even see farms and mountains outside of town. Everything was so far away that it looked tiny." Okay, so that can kind of give us some clues as to what "we could see for miles" means. Where she could see really far out. She could see all the roads coming into town. She could see parks and playgrounds from far away, mountains, farms, outside of town. And again, she says that everything looks so tiny. Okay, she does say that everything looks so tiny. So let's look at our 4 choices here. A says they could see the cars on the streets below. They could see the cars on streets below. Well, it actually doesn't mention in this paragraph about seeing cars on the street below. When they were in paragraph 2, when they were only on the 3rd floor, they could see cars moving on the streets right below. But that's when they weren't super high up. They were seeing things that were a little more nearby. For paragraph 8, remember, we're on the 20th floor now. So we're up way higher. So I think that they're seeing way further than the cars on the streets just below them. So we're going to slash and trash A. And B says they could see things that were tiny. They could see things that were tiny. Well, we do have evidence for that. In paragraph 8, it says everything was so far away that it looked tiny. I do see the word tiny. So let's put a question mark for B, but keep going, okay? C says they could see things that were far away. Well, look, I have evidence for far away also. I think that we see a lot of things in paragraph 8 that were far away, like the roads coming into town. Those would have been pretty far away. Parks and playgrounds, those would have been pretty far away. Farms and mountains outside of town, those would have been really far away. So I have evidence for C as well. I don't know about you guys, but I might have a little more evidence for C than I do B. All right, let's check D though. They could see the tall building next door. Well, this is an easy one to eliminate. It never even mentions the tall building next door. So what do you guys think? B or C? Does we could see for miles? Think about miles. If you run or bike or walk for miles, that would take you really far away. Or if you even drive for miles, miles are going to take you far away from where you are now. So I think that we have more supporting evidence for C. They could see things that were far away, like the roads coming into town, the parks and playgrounds, the farms and mountains. Everything was far away because they could see for miles, and miles are very far away from us. All right. Last one on this page says, what could Claire see from the third floor? All right, what paragraph did we see evidence of Claire being on the third floor? I think that was paragraph 2, where it says, first we went to visit his office. That was on the third floor. Okay, so we're on the third floor. He showed me his window, and I looked out and could see the street below. Cars were moving on the street, and people were walking on the sidewalks. So it says that they saw the street below, cars on the street, and people walking on the sidewalk. So is there any evidence in paragraph 2 there that says that they see farms? No, they didn't see the farms until here on floor 20. What about mountains? No, that wasn't until floor 20 either, because remember, we're focusing on the third floor, which is in paragraph 2. What about parks? Oh, I see parks on floor 20 also. But for paragraph 2, on the third floor, we do have evidence of seeing people. People were walking on the sidewalks. Farms, mountains, and parks were on the 20th floor, but I found text evidence to support that Claire did see people on the third floor in paragraph 2. All right, last 2 questions for this one, and then you're on your own. Okay, little vocabulary practice. What's the meaning of the word stunning in paragraph 7? So I'm looking for paragraph 7 and the word stunning. Here's my paragraph 7, where the uncle says, it's okay, Claire, you're safe, said my uncle. The view is stunning. Come and take a look. You can do it. So do you think that meant the view was amazing, boring, funny, or scary? I know this was asking us about paragraph 7, but something that stood out to me, one paragraph down in paragraph 8, was where Claire thought the view from the top was beautiful. So I feel like stunning and beautiful might kind of be words that mean similar things here. So the uncle really enjoyed the view. He thought it was exciting, and he wanted Claire to come look at it because it was so stunning. So the view is amazing. I think that could fit. What about boring? The view is boring. Come and take a look. Well, I don't think he's going to keep telling her to come and take a look if the view is boring. Slash and trash that one. What about funny? The view is funny. Come and take a look. You can do it, Claire. I don't think funny and stunning and beautiful mean the same thing. So let's slash and trash C. And scary. It's okay, Claire, you're safe. The view is scary. Come and take a look. I don't think he'd keep telling her to come and take a look if the view was so scary. I think the best choice here for stunning is amazing. All right, and finally, we're going to figure out which word best describes Claire's uncle. So throughout the story, we've learned that the uncle invited her on this trip. He had a surprise for her. First, she saw his office on the 3rd floor, and then they got to the surprise on the top floor. And the uncle is saying, come and take a look at the view. It's okay, you're safe, the view's stunning, come and take a look, you can do it. He's very encouraging. He cares a lot about Claire. He wants her to be safe, and he's encouraging her to be brave and face her fear and come and look at this awesome view from the top of the building. So which word best describes Claire's uncle? Okay, Ace is smart. Now, Claire's uncle might be one of the smartest people on earth, but I don't have any text evidence really here to show how smart he is, so I don't think that's the best choice. What about B? B says caring. He's very caring. I think I see evidence of that, especially in paragraph 7 where he tells her, it's okay, you're safe, you can do it, Claire. He's very comforting in showing that he cares about her by a lot of the evidence here in paragraph 7. What about busy? C says he's busy. I think if he was too busy, he wouldn't have taken the time to have Claire visit his building and have a surprise for her. So I don't think we could describe him best as busy. And what about brave? Yeah, he must be a little bit brave if he was able to come up to the 20th floor without any problems. But I think I have more evidence here from paragraph 7 to prove that he's caring more than he is brave. And again, he might be smart, he might be busy, he might be brave, but I have the most text evidence here to describe Claire's uncle as caring. All right, good job, guys. That was awesome. You did it. Great job. So here is your assignment for today on Seesaw, where you are going to be reading a story about the ugly duckling. It's kind of like a little bit of a almost like fable folk tale, which we haven't touched on a lot, but it's just another example of a fiction text that we have been talking about a lot. So you're going to read this passage about the ugly duckling, and I want you thinking about the characters, the setting, and the lesson that you can learn from this story. So you've got 4 questions to answer, and all you got to do is just add a little text or write some words underneath each one. So number 1 is asking you how you would describe the mother duck. So focus on her in the story. Number 2 is asking about how you would describe the ugly duckling. So focus on that character also. What's the setting of the story? Remember, that's where the story takes place. And then after you answer those 3, I want you to tell us what you think the lesson is of the story. Now remember, you might learn a lesson differently than I did too. There's not one right answer, but just think, what is the author trying to teach you from this story? And that's what I want you to tell me for the lesson of the story. Okay? Great job, guys. You did it. 1 day left. Tomorrow, we're going to finish up that Best Part About Me project. And I'm going to have some examples for you exactly how I want that to look when you submit that as an activity. So make sure you watch tomorrow. And I will see you then. Have a great rest of the day. Bye, guys.